Hi, I'm Gianluca Fiorelli and welcome back to the third session. Our guest today is, surely you know him because he's the co-founder along with another big guy, Sugantan Mohanadasan. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. And he's the co-founder of a tool that I hope many of you are using already, which is Keyword Insight. Also, the co-founder of an agency called Snippet Digital, an SEO agency. Remember, ACO agency, not GEO, and then or something else. And he's, let's say something more personal, he's Scottish, even if he's living in England now. I think, having read quite a few things online, he is one of the classic SEOs that learn SEO by doing. In fact, if I'm not wrong, he taught himself how to do SEO in the early 20s when he was substantially running a roller shopper business, if I'm not wrong. He considers himself a perfectionist, but has been able, something that I'm not able to do, to delegate to others. He is a remote work advocate, and that's one of the reasons why he co-created Keyword Insight, is really an advocate for creativity in order to fulfill objectives, especially and not only in the SEO world. Our guest today is Andy Chadwick. How are you doing?
Hello, mate. Yeah, good. Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So,
And by the way, I struggle to pronounce Saganthan's surname as well, so don't worry about it. And I've been working with him for 5
that's
years.
why we all call him Suga.
Easier.
It's like you're in Spain for my name, which is weird because Gianluca, you may think that Spanish and Italian have somehow the same name because of Latin, something like this. In Spanish, there are many, many, many names composed by Juan and another name, like it is Gianluca, but not Gianluca. So I am being called Jean-Luc, like Jean-Luc Picard, Juan Luca, which is a composite. I've even been called Sanlúcar, which is actually the name of a little town in Andalusia, Sanlúcar de Barrameda. And I mean, when I have to go to some place, because I know that nobody is able to pronounce my name, I just call myself as Luca, especially if you go to something like a Starbucks kind of coffee shop. Yeah. So,
Makes sense.
Andy, your name is quite more simple to pronounce. I hope it's Chadwick is the correct pronunciation.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to do 1 hour mispronouncing your names. So let's start. And let's start with a classic question I ask to all my guests. How is SEO treating you lately with all these confusing times that we are living?
Oh, it's still great for me, to be honest. I've always thought that, I keep telling people, I feel like it's now what it should have been 10 years ago. For far too long, I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved it when it was easy. But for far too long, it was too easy. And that's what led to just a load of crap being put out on the internet. And now it's not so easy. And now it's a lot more varied. I find it more interesting myself. It's not just optimizing for search engines in the traditional sense. It's optimizing across all these different platforms, which, to be honest, we started doing, luckily, well before AI was a thing. And we started doing it when TikTok started taking off. So we've always had this, I guess, mantra of be where your user's searching, which didn't make us a traditional SEO agency. We were searching wherever, and now everyone's leading into it. We're already ahead of the game, so it's treating us very well. And in fact, we're probably doing better now as an agency than we were 2 years ago in terms of the offerings that we have and the angles we can give people. The hard part actually isn't in doing the work. We were always doing the work. The hard part's reframing it to key stakeholders. 3 years ago, SEO used to be, so you've got paid PPC advertising, which was a performance channel. You give me £5, I'll make this into 20 quid and I'll give you a return on ad spend figure. I could give you a metric that tells you put money in, this is how much money it comes out. SEO was sort of like that. It was sort of a little bit performance and a little bit of brand building. It sort of sat between the two. Now I'd say it's going more and more towards the brand building side of things, which is a lot harder to justify in terms of costs because you can't give them money in, money out figure as easily. But it's a case of reframing it as like, well, hey, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, you're very happy to pay £50, £100 to put up that billboard or advertise on TV. That's brand building. So you should be as happy to do it into SEO if you reframe it that way as well. So that I think that's the hardest bit is reframing and managing expectations. But in terms of the actual work, yeah, I'm quite enjoying it. And we're doing well off the back of everything that's happening.
I completely agree with you. In fact, I think, I mean, it was easier until a few years ago, let's say 18 months ago, when all this stuff already started to burst with the more 1 year ago. Because actually, AI overview, for instance, which is the thing that really impacted SEO, is 1 year old, if we think about it. But it seems many, many years already with us. And yes, things maybe were easier. And so we were trying to find also as a personal challenge, probably you as an agency and myself as a consultant, those projects that were really fulfilling for interest, but also fulfilling us for, let's say, the kind of challenges that were giving us. Because if not, I mean, it was obviously every business, every website has its own personal history, and the solution is never the same for all the website. But somehow it was saying, Charlie Chaplin in modern times doing, okay, I started with doing this, then I do this, and then I do that. Unlucky enough, as you said, that many things that seems to be so important now because of LLMs, actually I was doing them already. And I'm not talking of the classic super silly SEO tips that some AI bros are sharing with everybody, asking them to be followed to if you want to receive a checklist. But I was thinking about, topical authority, clustering, all these kind of things. So in this sense, I think we have a common ground, a common voyage to this kind of solution. You were talking about how to present this change in terms of how to measure this thing. And I think this is probably the biggest challenge of all. For this thing, I want to recall something that you wrote a couple of months ago, substantially, on LinkedIn, where you were saying organic clicks are fading. As they vanish, is ambient visibility the key to your brand's AI dominance? Can you explain to me, to all the people watching us, what do you mean with ambience visibility?
It's just coming back to this idea of being everywhere, where traditionally you might just put a load of money into being on a search engine. You might write a blog, and this blog might be 5,000 words and cover loads of different subheadings and subwords. I'm now saying it's this idea of ambient visibility, breaking that up, splitting it out, having loads of guides targeting somewhat overlapping terms, then pushing it on YouTube, pushing that on social, pushing that across all these different places, making sure if you've got a point of view, pushing that somewhere on Reddit, all of these places that, so what the things like the AI models and things are doing, they're not just looking at one thing, they're pulling from multiple sources, I guess, synthesizing all of that. They're pulling from YouTube, they're pulling from Reddit, they're pulling from 10 different websites, synthesizing all of that, and then spitting out their answers. And so you want to be ambiently visible across all of it. And it's hard, especially for a small business, because traditionally they could have just stuck out a blog, 500 quid, job done. Now we're telling them you need to be on Reddit, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on YouTube. You need to still write those blogs, all those top of the funnel, those middle of the funnel guys. You still need to write all that, but you're competing against the big guys. And what I'd say to that is, although AI has been the great leveler in terms of, well, now you've got to be everywhere. It's also made it, it's also made it now a great leveler in terms of it should be a lot quicker to produce that. So I'm saying, I know quite a few companies that just stopped writing the top of the funnel blog guide type stuff. They're sort of thinking, why bother? AI will steal that click anyway. I can tell you, if you're not doing it, your competitors are, and it still does get cited, and it still does lead to some, not many, but it still leads to some referral traffic. And it also gives them a better context of who you are, which is great when an AI or LLM or a search engine is trying to understand who you are. The more surrounding content you've got, it has a better idea. So you still need to produce that, but the ROI of producing that, the cost of producing that should have gone down a lot. So even though the ROI has gone down a lot, so should the cost of producing it, because you should almost be using AI, not to write the whole thing. These people who just churn out guides using AI, that's not the way to do it. But certainly using AI to structure it. I recently did a Moz Whiteboard Friday where I spoke about how to use AI to write a blog the right way. And then you can use that AI to then push it to all the other channels. You can use it to write your TikTok scripts. You can use it to write your YouTube post. So yes, you need to be more places, and you might be thinking that's going to cost a lot more, but AI has also leveled the fact that it's a lot cheaper to push out across all those places.
Yes, you are substantially talking about embracing omni-channel as a strategy for your content. And I think you're totally right. And I think it was somehow a strategy that was needed even before becoming the impact of ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and Gemini itself, when we were seeing how Google was filling the SERP with features of any type. So if you wanted to gain visibility in the same Google, you know that people were, you needed to be present in all these features. So if a feature is image box, and you are maybe a website strongly visual in the sense that people looks more to your product image than the description, textual description of a product, then you have to be really strong in visual search because of lens, because of image search itself. If there is video, you have to do video, or eventually to create co-marketing with creators in order to be present with your brand in their videos. Yeah, so I totally agree with this, and I completely agree also in how AI as a tool can leverage the ability, because now if everybody has the same tool, it's not the cost, the price of the tool, is the ability of how using the tool, the creativity of using the tool that makes a brand stand out. Because we also already seen example of very big brands using AI and doing what we say in Spanish is chapuza. So a really bad job out of it. So I think you're right. The problem is how to explain and make people, your clients, embrace this needed change and not, okay, 5 minutes of uncertainty, but we can do that these things. And I think I also agree about the fact that some websites, some companies are completely cutting the top of the funnel. And I too think it's a mistake. And not only because without this kind of content, you are less visible, because 80% of the searches in any place, not only in Google, is informational. So if you are not creating informational content, you are not visible the 80% of the time. But also because, and I think, and I want to introduce another topic that you know very well, informational content is essential for creating topical authority for a brand. Talking about topical authority, what do you think people still don't get or don't understand completely about the concept of topical authority?
I don't actually know. I don't. That would be a very good question for us to ask our own customers, because Keyword Insights is obviously framed as a platform to help you become a topical authority. I've never stopped to ask the customers what part of it they don't understand, which might actually make the tool a lot better. I think it's a hard thing to conceptualize because it's quite a nebulous term. It's like, well, what is it? I mean, some people have tried to create a metric, but there's not really a metric. You have one topical authority or 100 topical. Like it's a bit of a nebulous term. It's certainly hard to quantify. So I guess what does it mean to have it? And there's a struggle there. It's a good question, and it's one that we should perhaps ask our own customers. What do you think?
Well, I think that if I'm talking to a client, I usually use an allegory to explain it. And he says that, okay, if you are feeling some pain and you're going to a doctor, and let's say you are feeling a pain on on your arm or your here. I don't remember the word in English of this part. And who are you going to consult? A cardiologist or a physiotherapist? I think that the person who has the expertise and experience because of the years he has worked on resolving problems, the same problem with other patients, is the one having topical authority about how to resolve this thing, not the cardiologist. So in terms of website, when I explain it to the client is if you are a website offering travels, tours, vacation and hotels rooms for, let's say, Tuscany, you should demonstrate that you touch all the things surrounding the topic at Tuscany in the niche of tourist and travel. And you demonstrate with your content, your video, your shorts, your image, that you have expertise, the classic concept of EAT substantially, are building up the topical authority for that. When I think about, let's say, the machine, the topical authority for me is really more about semantics. Let's say if a machine like Google or a machine like, say, ChatGPT, even if I'm not so sure about how ChatGPT LLMs have some kind of consideration about topical authority like Google, surely not. But I'm saying Google terms is if you are a website selling travels to Tuscany and you are creating content which is about Tuscany and you are also not only creating content, but it's content that is also recognized by mention, by citation, by other signal that I can find in other places which are not your website. Like, for instance, in Reddit, people citing a video you have done, or in Instagram, now that Google is also showing professional Instagram, which is important for me. It's a very important news. Maybe not counting like the likes, but seeing the engagement on these videos and so on. Or you have done a short on YouTube, it's working well, etc., etc., etc. If all these things, so external signal, internal linking, and semantic consistency inside your website, then you can eventually start considered a topical authority about this topic. And I think there is another factor, which is something that is important for me also for LLM, which is consistency and residency. So if you are constantly have an history of creating content about the topic, then if it's okay for all the other potential factors, then there is another factor. I think this is what can constitute a topical authority.
Yeah, for me, it's like if I had to define it, there was I call it this rising tide effect. If you have two websites, and anecdotally I've seen this, so if you have two websites and they're exactly the same, they sell the same product, they look the same, everything's the same, but one website, so they both sell suitcases, but one website also talks about wider travel and travel tips and things, and all the internal links going on. What we tend to see is the site that has the wider net of content tends to do better. And I think it's this nebulous idea of topical authority or the internal links, it's crawling them, it's understanding that more and more that this is a travel website. It's more confident about that. But secondly, links still matter. And so by building this top of funnel content, you can more safely build links to those pages and then internally link those pages to your products, which then ranks your products. Because obviously, if you're a suitcase selling website, you want to sell suitcases. You don't just want people to land on your top of the funnel content. So even if that top of the funnel content, you don't see the immediate benefit, even if you're going, well, it's not driving any traffic, although I'm pretty sure, and I can almost guarantee that it is indirectly through this idea of topical authority. But even if you don't think it is, you can use it to build links to, which is your first line of defense. Like you can't build a load of links to red suitcase because it looks really spammy. You can build a load of links to how to choose the perfect colored suitcase and then internally link that to your red suitcase because that doesn't look spammy. And so that's the other big reason for making that top of funnel content.
Yes, totally. And now with the rise of LLMs, not just GPT, I'm thinking in South Europe, Spain, Italy, France, we still don't have AI mode. You already have your AI mode in the UK, and the Americans, our friends in the US, have started to see it even before. So with AI and AI mode, AI overview, now is rising also this concept of writing, of creating or formatting content in chunks, which is in a recent conversation I recorded with Ian Lurie. He was saying, the concept of chunk, okay, let's think it's new, but it's not new because it's how people remember things. They remember things in chunks, not as an entire document, which is true. And I think that the informational bits can also be put in other types of content that is pages of documents that are not 100% informational. You were talking about, for instance, the red dress, how to choose the perfect red dress guide. But in the product page of a red dress, specific red dress, you can create FAQ specific to the product. So you can even go further in the very bottom, very long conversational query type of situation. And in this case, I somehow, as a user, you Keyword Insight presented a lot of news recently. One is about somehow a way to create a personalized contest for find kind of works projects that a client is creating with your tools. How are you? Let's say it's like a backstage kind of question. Are you maybe rethinking Keyword Insights also for specific use in LLM content creation and stuff like this? I know Keyword Insight has its own use of AI into the tool, but I'm thinking about more, okay, clustering. There's a lot of AI behind it, but it's usually thinking it's more for classic SEO, even if I think it's really important also for LLMs. But for all these things like, okay, these things, let's say from a query fan out, I don't think it's worth a single content. It could be a chunk in some other content. There is a way to take advantage of the features of Keywords Insight for this kind of work.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The traditional ways used for optimizing for AI now is the fact it helps you become a topical authority, and that's the real big message. Like right now, you can pull all the keywords from your competitors, group them in Keyword Insights. It'll tell you every single page you need to create, and then you can one click and create each piece of content you need. So it helps you become a topical authority, which helps you get cited. In answer to your question, I've got to be careful what I say. I spoke to Saganthan just before this call, and he's like, "Don't give too much away." But we have features coming very soon, which, as you sort of pointed out, almost does the reverse of the query fan out. It pulls all those queries in, and it will help you write the articles in a way which will make sure you tick all the boxes, and then ultimately track to make sure that you've created this piece of content using Keyword Insights. We suggest you answer these query fan out questions. Click this button, we'll make it, and then you can track it. I think I haven't given too much away, but that's all coming fairly soon, which is really exciting, and that's where we're going with it.
Cool. Yeah, yes, it looks exciting. It looks promising. We are talking about content, clustering, topical apps, content app, and chunking. And 2 years ago already, you were talking about something, let's say, content fragmentation. What were you meaning with content fragmentation? Because I read it and I figured that even if it's 2 years old, it's still very actual kind. That article you wrote.
Yeah, it's a technique that I used to use to outrank big guides like Forbes and things. If like I had a client in the crypto space, and Forbes dominates cryptocurrency, like it ranks for nearly everything. And we're like, okay, how can we beat these this massive company with all this authority for all these terms. And what you do is if you pull their, like, let's say you type in what is Bitcoin. I don't know if Forbes ranks anymore, but let's say they did. And Forbes is the first article that ranks. If you pull that URL and dump it into Ahrefs, Ahrefs will tell you, I don't know, it gets 10,000 visitors a month, or it's probably more like 100,000 visitors a month. And it's made up from all these different keywords that it ranks for. What is Bitcoin is one of them, but so is how much is Bitcoin? Where do I buy Bitcoin? All those different queries. And what's interesting is it doesn't rank number one for all those queries. It ranks number one for what is Bitcoin, because I clicked it, but it ranks number 9 for how much is Bitcoin. It ranks number 7 for where can I buy Bitcoin. It ranks number 11 for how do you mine Bitcoin. It ranked across its 200, 300 keywords it ranks for, and where Ahrefs gets that number of organic traffic comes for. It only ranks for one for a small group of them. Then it ranks for number 7 for another group of them. It ranks for number 10 for another group of them. Ranks for number 3. And so what you're actually seeing is, actually, it's done a big guide, but it's ranking for so many queries across so many different results. It's not. It's only ranking there because of its authority. So what you can do is grab all those keywords, dump them into something like Keyword Insights, which groups it basically analyzes the search engine results and groups the keywords based on what's ranking. And so, okay, maybe Forbes ranks on the first page for all those keywords, but actually for the other 299 keywords, there's various guides bouncing in and out, super specialized on whatever that question was. So maybe Forbes' ultimate 5,000 word guide ranks for all those keywords. But actually, there's a specialized guide on where to buy Bitcoin that ranks. There's another specialized guide on what is Bitcoin. So this idea of fragmentation is pulling all the keywords that it ranks for, dumping into a clustering tool, which will analyze the search results, and it will group all the clusters together of how many pages you can break that one into. And then you go away and create all that content. You're not going to outrank Forbes with one piece of content, but you might sort of outrank them with 10, each for a different query. And that's the way we used to compete against companies like that. But yes, this idea of content fragmentation, splitting these big authoritative pieces out into like 10, 20, however many it may be pieces.
Cool. And substantially, you using content fragmentation as a complementary way, because with all this content, fragmented content, you are substantially creating a cluster. So again, we are returning to clustering content into a topical app.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. And another question, it may sound a little weird like a question, but in the last month, we always hear this tantra, which is keywords are dead. How does it feel, this kind of recurring trope for someone who co-founded a tool called Keyword inside? This is just the joking part of the question. What do you think is the role of keywords now that most of the time we are talking about entities, about topics? Where we can reframe keywords?
Anyone who says that, I'll challenge them to not use a keyword research tool ever again and see how their SEO gets on, or see how their organic traffic gets on. They won't do it. Like, ultimately, okay, people are searching in long phrases now. We're calling it conversational search, or there's key phrase search, or people aren't searching in entities. That's obviously how search engines use it. But we're talking about conversational search. Keywords are dead. Conversational search is the way forward, is what I'm hearing a lot. And when you look at these conversational searches, I'll just call them longer queries because that's what it is. It's like, okay, the query going into the search engine, well, the LLM, or even the search engine now, if you're using AI mode or whatever, is what is the difference between Nike shoes and Reebok shoes, and which one would be better for a 5K run? Okay, that's a really long phrase. And what you need to look at it is actually it's like a Lego house. That's a Lego house, but really each one is built up with a Lego brick. It's made up of a number of keywords, each of which independently have their own volume. And if you understand what that fan out looks like, so one is Nike shoes, and you want to write what a Nike shoe is. One is Reebok shoes. One is 5K. How to win a 5K. This is what we're saying about becoming a topical authority. If you cover all of that content, what is a Reebok shoe? What is a Nike shoe? What is a 5K? What's a good time to do a 5K? Which shoes would you recommend doing in a 5K? You write all of that and you interlink them together. It's going to synthesize from you anyway. And the thing that's guiding you writing those topics are keywords. So it's just, you still need that data. You still need the keywords, because we can't possibly start to get search volume on key phrases, because you'll never get any. So you still need to break it down. Okay, let's call keywords topics now. You still need the search volume of the top, and search volume's never been accurate anyway, right? I just use it as a marker. Like, if the word Nike has 1,000 and Reebok has 500, I don't literally take it as 1,000 people a month search for Nike and only 500 search for Reebok. I take it as Nike gets twice as many searches as Reebok. So you still need the keywords, or we'll call them topics now if you want, but they're still keywords, to understand the search volumes, to understand the content you essentially need to be writing or prioritizing. I think you should write all of it, but prioritizing certainly. So keywords very much has a role in it. And if anyone says they don't, I will dare them to get rid of all their keyword research tools and start just producing content or prioritizing content, because I think I'd be willing to bet I'll get my results a lot quicker by still using keyword research data.
Yes, I think that sometimes I've been personally misunderstood because I always says I don't like keyword research. Personally, I find it very boring. But I don't like certain types of keyword research, which is like putting a keyword or clicking on keyword magic in SEMrush, for instance, and retrieving all 1 million keywords that is spitting out the tool. That is very silly for me. And then trying to create a content for targeting one specific keyword. I think that is really 2005, 2010. I always consider that the keywords are substantially using another allegory. The entity is a concept, but you cannot even explain it very well to clients. For instance, what is an entity? Just an entity is a thing that like blah, blah, blah. I think that keywords are substantially words that represent part of that entity. So they are like the atoms of a bigger thing. I don't know how to call it. So they are essential in order to understand. And your example was really good because the conversational query, you can split it out. And I was using this kind of, when someone was asking me, okay, now what keywords we need to target? Okay. Instead of explaining, hey, we have to target this and this and this and this, I was, look at the title tag I'm proposing you. Let's see all the combination, meaningful combination of the words that we have in the title tag. These are our keywords. Because obviously the classic title tag hotel in Ibiza is easy. But hotel, exclusive hotel, cheap hotel in Ibiza, offers 2025. It contains hotel in Ibiza, Ibiza offer 2025, cheap hotel in Ibiza, exclusive hotel Ibiza. So a big composition. And another thing that the way I was always proposing in a way that I always hope a tool finally was able to fulfill in order to help me avoiding manual work was, okay, Google is suggesting us what are the queries, what are the keywords that we have to target, because all the query refinement that it does, all the related searches are containing keywords. The people also ask if you can synthesize in keywords and so on. And now also the query for now, you can synthesize them in a set of keywords. Using Google, you can have your keyword research, and then you can go to a tool like Keywords Insights and start doing the more interesting thing, which is not surely doing keyword research, but it's how to make of this mass of keywords something logical, something useful. But talking about, there is a little tool which is for free that you have created already a couple of years ago, which is Reddit Insights. Let's say it's the little brother of Keyword Insight. And I think it's even more important like a tool, as a tool, because of how much LLMs are substantially relying on Reddit as a source. So do you have any interesting case study of your, maybe as an agent, working in agency, of using Keyword Insights that you can present to our watchers and listeners?
Yeah, so I mean, We've actually had to take Reddit Insights down for some legal reasons, which we'll get into at the moment. But essentially, the concept is this, and it still works really well. The same question. So you got to put yourself in the mind of someone who goes to ask a question on Reddit. They go in there to ask mainly, probably because they want first-hand experience, but also because they haven't found a decent enough guide elsewhere online that answers their question. And that's probably why they've gone to Reddit. And then it's this self-fulfilling cycle, right? Us as SEOs and content marketers, we all have access to the same keyword research tools. So we're all basically, okay, one person might be slightly better than the other at adding filters or cutting through all the data, but we're all going after the same keywords. And so we're not writing any of the content that the people on Reddit's asking, because the questions they're asking are so long and conversational. They're not in the keyword research tools, so no one's writing them. And it's this little chain that goes on. If you go on a Reddit thread and comb through and keep scrolling for long enough, you start to see the same question asked time and time and time again. If you go on one about skincare or skincare beauty, you'll see the same question on skincare asked about 20 times. If you go on one about plumbing, you'll see the same question plumbers are asking about a certain tool 1,000 times. And we had a skincare client who came to us, brand new, venture capitalist back, so load of money but no authority, new website. And they were like, how do we insert ourselves into this conversation that's incredibly competitive? It's moisturizers, skincare. How do we even begin to compete on that? And so what we did was, we used the Reddit API to pull all the questions in the relevant threads. So skincare, beauty, Oz skincare. There was loads of threads to do with skincare. And then pull all those questions, and then when you cluster them together, you actually start to see, oh, it's the same question. Well, you can see it by scrolling anyway, but it's a very quick way of just grabbing all the questions relevant to your niche, clustering them, and actually seeing, okay, these aren't zero volume keywords. It's just the same question being asked 100 different times, all with zero volume. So it's not really zero volume. It's just people wording it differently. So keyword research tools aren't picking them up. And we made a whole content strategy answering those questions. We wrote it from a first person point of view, so it resonated with them. It wasn't written in second person. Like, you need to do this with you. It was written like, I got out of bed and this is what I found to help, because that's what people trust a lot more now. Wrote all that content, and I think we went from nothing to about 20, 30,000 visitors a month in about 3 months, which in the moisturizing industry is really good going. So there's a good way to use Reddit plus keyword clustering to get some really cool insights.
Yeah, and if I have to give a suggestion is the other part is understanding what are the good subreddit to use as a source. And in this case, citing another tool, and Fishkin SparkToro, it's a very good tool in order to understand what are the potential subreddit. Not only the classic big one, like the SEO one, for instance, in our niche, but also what SparkToro called like the gems, which are maybe smaller subreddit, but with a lot of engagement. So very probably you can find fresh information. And another thing that is interesting, and I think you agree with me, is analyzing very well the trends. I think that trends now on Reddit, the trends, classic Google Trends, but now finally can be retrieved officially, also thanks to Google, not that weren't existing unofficial ways to do it already. And Pinterest is a great source. It has substantially all the platform as TikTok trends. So on. And I think this is really important because considering the personalization that is, we are going to live even more in search results, and personalization is clear on LLMs. The more we are targeting, being the first, among the first targeting trends, the better for the clients in order to pop up and going into the loop of memory for the people searching things. Have you experiences with things like trends apart the classic news checking tactics? How do you use, for instance, trends for your clients?
We haven't had many clients which have had to jump on trend. I mean, part of the keyword discovery part of our tool, which leaves a lot to be desired. It's not the best keyword research tool out there, to speak bluntly about it, but it does do something differently to other keyword research tools, in that it pulls from Quora, People Also Ask, and it's got out of me now. The other Google thing that comes up at the bottom. Oh, I've had a main blank.
People also search for.
People also search for, yeah. And so it can pick up trends before, well, keyword research tools do, because keyword research tools inherently rely on historical data, right? Whereas the people also ask and the people also search for change depending on what's happening that week. So we had one where there was a TikTok shortage. Sorry, there was a cucumber shortage in Iceland a few months ago. They completely ran out of cucumbers in the whole of Iceland. And if you used our keyword research tool, you could see it coming a mile off, because when you put in the keyword cucumber into our keyword research tool, most of the keywords we pulled back were cucumber recipe TikTok. And the reason there was a shortage is because the cucumber trend went viral in Iceland, and that's what happened. And so we picked up on all those keywords before. Well, I say before, no other keyword research tool ever did, because the trend came and then it died. But we picked that up. To be honest, the only way we really use trends as an agency is in sort of reactive PR type stuff. So if we see something going quite big in the news or something, we'll jump on that and spin up some sort of funny campaign about it. Yeah, we had a dining table client, and we saw that there was a certain type of Scandinavian trend coming in, the Scandi trend. We picked that up in People Also Ask, and then we told them they should start offering that as a product. Just put it a landing page there, see what happens, see what the interest is, and then if it makes sense, build it. And actually, that ended up being one of their biggest sellers for about 2 years. So we have seen it, but yeah, it's normally a reactive PR type of thing that we're using that for.
Yeah, I think that trends can be interesting apart for these all of a sudden coming out from nowhere trends. Sometimes are really curious. And because, for instance, I remember for a client in the travel industry, all of a sudden I started to see trends for an important region, a very unknown little town in Sardinia popping up in trends, but something from 0 to 100 in 2 days. And it was, maybe you even know, because it came out also in newspaper. It was a town that it was substantially, in order to not disappear because not having any inhabitant anymore, it was substantially selling houses for €1. And all of a sudden it became super viral and everybody was searching for it. But apart from these cases, I think trends is possibly the best way to understand not only the biggest seasonality, but also the peak of a certain type of seasonality. So it's a good way to understand when the perceived search intent from Google may change from purely informational to commercial to transactional and so on. I think that is a quite interesting way to use for using trends. And you surely are one of a person because of experience, because of keywords inside. So all the researches that you're doing for improving, you and Suga are doing for improving the tool, you probably had a good idea, a good vision, maybe not so clear, crystal clear as nobody has it, about how search is it now. But what your gut is telling to you about what is going to be in the next future. Everybody's saying AI mode will become the new search. I even wrote a long post about it. But now I'm seeing WebGuide, and I find WebGuide really great. So, what do you think is going to be that surface that we have to work our client for?
I think it'll be just incredibly fragmented. I think I can't see commercial queries, really commercial queries being, and by commercial I actually mean transactional, being replaced by chatbots. All the research stage, yes, I think that'll all go towards LLMs, and so that will change. So like if I'm researching what the best train is to buy and this and that, but I think ultimately I'll search the last thing on search. It'll be Nike trainers or blue dress or something like that. I still see that, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, staying on search, because there's a lot of people who are a lot older. I speak to a lot of people and get a lot of, like, I guess, interview data, and there's so many people who haven't even downloaded any LLMs onto their phone that I speak to. We live in a microcosm where we think, because we're at the forefront of a lot of this, and we use it. We're early adopters, so we naturally think everyone else will be, and I don't think that's the case. So I think SEO will still be important, and I think ranking on search engines will be important. I think Google will slowly lose market share, but it won't be overnight. I don't even think it'll be in 5 years. I think it'll be very slow. And I mean market share, I mean the traditional 10 blue links with the ads, all of that. I think it'll be really slow. As for commercial and transactional queries, I think, yeah, search in general will just become more fragmented. And that's what that post is talking about. We need to be on TikTok for some queries and Pinterest for other queries, like bathroom ideas. I don't think waste time writing a blog about that. Make a Pinterest about bathroom ideas. Cool bathroom gadgets or where to go in London. Those searches are actually going more towards TikTok. People want to search TikTok for, like, bars in London. Buying blue dress, red dress, wedding dress back on Google. Comparing this against that, and I'm going for a 5K. What should I run for? That's more of an LLM. So I guess it's really understanding. I call it this idea of 3D intent. So we have this 2D intent. 2D intent is this the query transactional, commercial, informational, or navigational? You know, I guess the stereotypical ways of intent we've always talked about. But this idea of 3D intent, that I call it, is adding another layer on top of that. Okay, this is what we mean, commercial, but where our audience? Because if it's, I don't know, pension schemes or old people insurance, I think that commercial term will still be on, and even comparing it will still be on Google. Whereas if we're comparing the next iPhone, that'll move to a different platform just because of the demographics and the age gap. So it's this idea of, like, having a 3D level of intent on top of it, which I think is really interesting. But that's the way I think search will go. It's in line with our logo, not our logo, our branding. We sort of changed our branding to, we'll get you found wherever that search may be. It's not just Google, it's everywhere. But I think Google will still be important, at least for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. And talking about brand, yes, but also with this sort of confusion between brand and branding. So the branding is the dress, the color, the logo, the font, and brand is what really matters, in the sense that brand is owning your unique voice and being able to communicate with your voice what you want to communicate, the right message to your audience. And yes, I in Italy, and I had my good friend Giorgio Taverniti talking about this concept. We talk what you call 3D, we call it liquid search, in the sense like water, which is flowing from one place to another place. And the search journey is flowing from one surface to another surface. Before was everything owned by Google, substantially. And now it's like 25, 30 years ago, when we had more than one search engine and Google was just in its beginning. And in Italy, we had Virgilio and Libero and other search engines. And okay, let's talk about you now. So you are Scottish, and I like in your personal website, in your about page, I like the photo you share. And you say you publish this photo in order to feel us more relaxed, evoking nostalgia for you. What do you miss of Scotland? Even if, I mean, you don't live so far away from Scotland, but what is your memory of being Scottish?
So my whole family's from Scotland pretty much. And I mean, my website needs updating massively, but I was born there. My parents moved around a lot. So actually, funnily enough, I lived in Italy. I lived in Naples for 4 years. I lived in California. I lived in Australia. I moved around a lot. And then we came back to Scotland for another few years. And for me, it just feels, you know, something feels like home. And I live in London now. And sadly, the last of my family, I'm from a little town called Lossiemouth, which is really far north. You go to Edinburgh and keep going for another 4 hours, right on the coast. And I had the perfect balance. I had a 5-minute walk to the beach, and Lossiemouth beaches are stunning. They're not like the beaches around the east coast of England, which is all it's nice blue waters, sandy beach, golden sandy beaches, a little bit cold, but lovely beaches. So I had a 5-minute walk to the beach, and I had a 35-minute drive to the mountains. So I had the best of both worlds. You could surf in the summer and then ski or snowboard in the winter. It was fantastic. And sadly, the last of my family who lives up Scotland has either moved away or passed away. And so there's not much reason for me to go back there anymore, which is sad. We used to go there every Christmas even when we lived in Italy, we'd go up for Christmas. So yeah, it feels like home. I had a stag do or a bachelor party, if I've got any Americans, on the weekend just gone, which is why I'm a little bit tired, still recovering from that. And my friends took me to Loch Lomond, which is the big lake near Glasgow. Famous song about Loch Lomond. And it was really nice to be back in Scotland there. But yeah, it feels like home. I like whiskey. I like shortbreads. It just feels very comforting.
I have very fond memories of Loch Lomond because when I was a kid and we traveling to Scotland with a car, a really old Fiat with my parents and my brother, and we were in a bed and breakfast on Loch Lomond. So I really remember it well. And you were saying you lived in Italy. Where? This is a personal curiosity I have.
Yeah, Naples. I lived in Naples for 4 years.
Cool.
Yeah, I used to speak fluent Italian, but I can't remember it anymore.
Maybe we can organize private lesson.
Yeah, no,
Conversation.
I went to school in Italy. I was there. When did I move there? I moved there when I was 3, and then I left when I was 7 or 8. So I could speak fluent Italian back when I was a kid. I used to translate for my parents.
Cool. And when you were a kid, let's say when you were a kid or a teenager, I don't think you were thinking, I want to be a marketer or I want to be, obviously not an SEO, because SEO wasn't really a job at the time. So what a younger Andy Chadwick wanted to be?
I always wanted to be a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then well, I didn't have the eyesight for it. So I mean, I've had laser eye surgery now, but I always wanted to be a pilot, and then I wanted to be in the Marines, the Royal Marines. But then I realized I hated being told what to do. I hate instructions. I don't like all of that. And so I ended up just starting my own business, which was never a plan. And to grow that business, I needed to learn the market, learn how to do marketing. And I was doing something which I didn't know how to name at the time, but it was called SEO. And that's what made our company really big. And so when I exited the company, I thought I'm going to teach people more about SEO. I'm going to go around because I wanted to travel. Because I used to travel as a kid, as I told you. I lived in Italy, lived in Australia. So I wanted to freelance and just not worry about anything and travel the world. And then COVID hit, so that stopped my traveling. And then there's nothing better to do. I'm not the sort who's just going to sit and watch TV. So instead, I started just working on my freelancing business. That grew too quickly. I met Siganthan, my business partner. He said, let's start an agency together. And I said, I'm happy to start an agency with you, but I really don't want to hire people because I hated managing people when I had my last company. We had about 25 members of staff back then. And so instead, we started building tools to automate as much of the work for us as possible. And then we realized the tools were valuable. And then we started releasing them. And Keyword Insights was one of about many we have built. We've got so many more internal tools that, we didn't realize just how hard it was running a SaaS business. So we actually have loads of internal tools, some really cool ones as well. We just haven't released them to the public because we haven't had time to build them. Well, we haven't had time to build them publicly. And so that's where I went. So it just all unfolded one accident to the next. And now I have an agency. I live in London because I'm not traveling because the company's too big. And I've got a software tool which grew by mistake. So that's how it all happened.
Well, I don't think it grew by mistake. I think that it grew because it's good, sincerely. And because it filled something, a need that was clearly there. No tool was really doing that. All the other tools came after, all not really good, substantially. And I think that it fit in a very good moment. That's why.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. It was a wonderful pleasure to spend this hour with you.
Thank you, Gianluca. I appreciate it.
And I hope to see you in real life. I think we are going maybe to see each other in real life in one conference or another in the next future. And let's promise to meet up again, maybe for a new episode of a session.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks for having me, Gianluca.
And thank you to all of you. Remember, subscribe to the channel. Give it a like to this episode because I think it's really cool episode. And ring on the bell so you're going to be advised whenever a new episode of a session is going to be published. Take care and see you later.